loving you harder now. Maybe I thought you could give me wings. Maybe I thought falling felt like flying. 'Cause loving her makes loving you harder. 'Cause loving her makes loving you harder now. Loving her makes loving you harder. And far away, I'm loving you stronger now. Cause loving her makes loving you harder now. Cause loving her makes loving you harder now. If I can, if I could build you up, don't bring me down, bring me down. If I fall, then would you lift me up? Would you lift me up or bring me down?
They would like this like the beginning of a revolution.
What is up, Level Up Nation, and welcome to the Monday, October 26th edition of Level Up Live, your home for gaming and esports news, brought to you by OTN Media. My name is Fiasco. You can call me John. That dude right next to me, his royal title is the king of the courtside, but you can call him Joey. It's Joey. What's up, buddy?
I am doing all right, sir. It is a Monday, so per usual, things are a struggle here and there, but we have a lot of good news, a lot to talk about. We're not going to list our topics just yet, but there is quite a bit to chat about tonight, at least.
Absolutely have to charge my Bluetooth charger over here because it was beeping before we even started here, Joey.
Oh, also chat. So Zoom changed my sound settings. If anything needs to be raised or lowered, please let John and I know.
Looks like you're coming across on OBS fine.
Okay, cool.
We know what happened last time when that happened, so we'll see if it actually is. So Nation, make sure you follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Level Up Live. That is at LvLUP Live. And while you are on Twitter, why not give your favorite or least favorite hosts a follow here on Twitter as well? You can follow Joey at Courtside King, myself at Fiasco. If you're watching here live on Twitch, awesome. Thanks for being here. We do appreciate it. You can see those handles right below our mugshots you're currently staring at. And if you listen on the podcast down the road, they'll be in the show notes for you below. And Nation, as always, if you do wish to listen to the podcast version of the show, the Level Up Podcast is available on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. And since you're already listening to the podcast version, why not leave us a really awesome review? Reviews do go a long way to help grow the show and reach new listeners, so we do appreciate you taking a small 30 seconds out of your day, leaving us a really cool review. All right, Joey, it's Monday. Worlds for League of Legends is coming to the close. We know our final two teams, and there's going to be a lot to discuss there. But what else are we discussing today on the Monday edition of Level Up Live?
John, we have some exciting roster moves from Valorant to CSGO to the Call of Duty League, Overwatch League free agency, LOL free agency as well. We're going to dive a little bit into those, but not too much, as there's still a lot of fluid movement. On top of that, we're talking Facebook and Oculus and what that means for gamers out there using VR headsets. We're talking new games and how they're being enhanced for the new consoles. A little bit of an update on Xbox and PlayStation as we get closer to those console launches, LOL Worlds, and much more.
All right, Joey, we have a ton of topics. I cannot wait to dive into this episode. Unlike you, I had the day off today, so I'm fired up. I'm ready to go. I have all this energy pent up, even though I was in doctor's offices most of the day, which will be reflected in my drink of choice. Which we'll just jump straight to the drink of choice segment, Joey, because you're gonna have to carry this episode because I'm on doctor's orders to do otherwise. Joey, your beverage to carry the show today.
Guys, I am vibing tonight with these new things. I don't know if anyone follows me on Instagram because I barely use it. I'm going with a hard seltzer, a Vibes hard seltzer from Aslan Beer Company, pumpkin spice. So I'm doing my basic white girl flavoring of hard seltzers.
I'm going to need you to take a sip or two of that right now and tell me how it is.
It's pretty good.
Have you? That was a very small sip.
I have had it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's good. It definitely has like a cinnamon flavor that carries over. And I think that's kind of more the spice than the pumpkin. I don't really taste a ton of pumpkin, but it has like that, I guess like a pumpkin pie flavoring. Like it definitely has cinnamon notes that carry.
Very nice. I'm having the freshly imported, very rare, hardly ever brewed Coke Zero today. Again, I spent the entire day in doctor's offices, bouncing between one doctor to another. So until I can get off some of these really awesome medications that don't allow you to drink alcohol, I'm sitting on the bench for this one, Joey. So I do apologize. Hopefully I'll be able to bounce back in time for Thursday. And who knows? Maybe I can join you in some pumpkin spice seltzer action.
Hey.
Who knows?
Now, let's just be clear to the chat and to our listeners on the podcast later. John does not have COVID or anything like that.
No.
He has I don't know what we call it, a sore foot injury type of thing.
So we're just going to say it's a lingering issue with foot pain. That roughly 8 doctors don't know what it is. So we're currently doing a lot of blood tests and a lot of trial and error is what we're going to call it. The error being the drugs that don't work. So we're going to find out what exactly it is. And hopefully it's nothing too serious, but hey, I don't know. We'll find out. But Joey, you have your beverage to carry the show. I have my doctor recommended beverage. Let's get right into it. Let's get right into gaming and esports news. Let's go.
Sir, I guess you can't use the excuse that you're playing with your feet when we're playing League of Legends and you're not looking so great anymore. That one's just kind of out of the window at the moment. But yes, hopefully the foot does end up getting better and we will keep you guys updated on that one. But for now, it's not going to affect the podcast. we are going to continue on, and we're going to kick things off with Valorant. Cloud9 has signed an all-female Valorant roster, formerly Team MAJKL, the female roster known as C9 White now. So there's going to be C9 Blue and C9 White. The all-female roster will be white. It's going to include Alexis Marie, Annie Dro, Jack, Jazzy Kins, Katsumi, and Mel Anji. I like this move overall. Cloud9 is not the first organization to do it. I want to say Dignitas has a female CSGO roster, Valorant roster as well. T1 has one too. So they're not the first one to jump in with an all-female roster. At the same point, it never hurts for female gamers when you have big organizations like Cloud9, like a T1, like a Dignitas even jumping into these different roles. At the same point, I think it's great for role models as well. When you look at a bunch of girls coming up as gamers who might have that aspiration of becoming a pro gamer, it becomes a lot easier to realize that it's a possibility when you see other girls out there doing it, when you see female gamers making it to a professional level. So I think this is a big win, not only for Cloud9, but for female gamers in general who have that aspiration of becoming a pro.
Yeah, I was actually having a conversation with some of my relatives in regards to female gamers in general, and the biggest issue is there still seems to be that stigma in society that video games, especially the violent video games, if you will, are mainly for guys. Like they are a guy thing. Now, while yes, there are a lot of guys in the industry, there are a lot of guys, a lot of male pro players out there that. Really dominate the scene. That's because there's that stigma, there's that barrier that we as a community are still trying to get over, that says yes, women can play video games, yes, women can be pro players, they can be pro streamers, they can be pro content creators. There's nothing that says that they have to be divided between men and women esports gaming and so on and so forth. But it is a growing thing until we get out of this traditional sport mindset where boys can only play with boys and girls can only play with girls. Joey, I don't know about you, but I've gotten my butt kicked on the Rift plenty of time by female gamers. The gender of the player has nothing to do with their skill set. But until that stigma can finally be ended in society, this is a step in the right direction. This is a step to overall equality, and I'm glad to see Cloud9 jumping on board with an all-female roster here to really promote, and Joey, like you said, be that role model for the next generation of female gamers.
Right. And we've talked a lot about this over various shows before. And I think some of the arguments we've made is that they could play together, male and female players. As far as skills go, it definitely can be an equal skill basis. One of the issues that's come up in the past with a couple female players who've made professional teams with male players is the housing situation. When you look at smaller organizations, that could mean buying a second house. That could mean finding ways to limit the house of trying to find that separation of male versus female within gamer house type of things for smaller organizations is tough. For a bigger organization like a G2, a Fnatic, a Team Liquid, a Cloud9, it becomes a little bit easier to find those mixed rosters if that does eventually become more of a thing as we move forward in professional League of Legends, CSGO, all these big major scenes. But for now, there are a few all-female rosters out there. Cloud9 joining that mix here in Valorant with C9 White, a pretty stacked roster here overall. CSGO, Cloud9 also still in the news. They have dropped 4 of their NA CSGO roster members after unacceptable contract breaches. Players JT, MOTM, I believe that's man of the match, Sonic, and Coach TC. According to Dextero, unauthorized guests were invited into the team's residence, making it the second time this breach of contract has occurred. As a result, they have decided to move forward on these players and say, hey, guys, you're getting moved to free agency because you can't follow rules. Jack did make a statement on it as well. He came out and said, look, they ended up putting the safety of C9 staff at risk by bringing in these unauthorized guests. This is not the first time it's happened. They were told not to do this before because they can't seem to follow rules. This has happened a second time. He's not giving them a third chance. You guys are gone. You can't follow the rules. We don't want you on our team. Welcome to free agency. I think, again, I don't know very many details about this. I don't know who the unauthorized guests are. I don't know what the danger necessarily was. If we're talking something COVID related, if we're talking weapons, I really have no idea what the limitations of these guests were or the actual rules within the contract either. But overall, if you can't follow rules, if you get that one warning, then I don't feel bad if these players get moved to free agency, especially if Jack already gave them that warning previously.
Yeah, I mean, they're lucky Jack gave them a warning. And to be completely honest, let's just go ahead and assume it is, a COVID policy. Let's go ahead and assume that, in the middle of an international pandemic, where the U.S. has the highest cases, per day, it feels like, of anywhere in the world. You can't have and like, these are your places of business. Like, that's one thing that is very unique to esports, is the idea of gaming houses. Like, that's just, that's where the players are. That's where the staff is. There's so much that happens inside of that house that, yeah, if you bring in people that are unauthorized, let's say, again, hypothetically, this is a COVID policy, you don't know if these people are getting tested. You don't know what they're, where they have been, if they've been exposed. You don't know if the symptoms are coming up. You don't know the last time they were tested. There's a lot of things that go into it. And just like traditional sports, if one of the players gets sick and has to quarantine for 14 days and cannot compete, that is money that organization is losing. They're going to have to bring in a backup player to play in that position, and that's going to severely compromise the chemistry of that team and their ability to perform at that high level in whatever competition they're in. That is legitimate money on the line. And yes, I get it. A lot of players in esports are young. We're talking 18, 19, 20. Real life experiences here being learned on the fly for them. But Jack gave him that warning. And I'm sorry, you get to play video games for a living, and now you got to play it with an amazing organization like a Cloud9. You got a warning. You did it again. Now you got released. That doesn't look good for these players. Other organizations can be like, look, you can't follow rules. Why do we want to take a chance on you if you can't follow rules?
Not only that, but I think this is a win-win potentially for C9 as well. The way they seem to be trending was to get rid of their NA roster in general, to be honest, or at least to completely overhaul it. It seems like the majority of their investment for CSGO is now going to C9 Colossus over in EU. Again, Henry doing a really good job with the, I don't know what you call it, the transparency, I guess, with contracts, with the amount of players being signed, who is playing what role, why they're being brought on. It's just very transparent with that Colossus roster. So I think that's part of the reason this ends up going down. C9's already looking at potentially making a move away from these players. This just makes it a little bit easier. Chat does bring up a point as well, saying that most of these players probably weren't going to play for C9 anyway moving forward. So this is one of those other things where, like, okay, maybe the players wanted to try to get out of their contract. They knew this was a way that's not crazy, but it is one way to get them out of it. But again, it doesn't look good for future teams looking to bring these players on either, in my opinion. If you go to a job interview and say, hey, I'm really good at this role and I'm really good at playing this game, but I ended up doing this and I got kicked off my last team. Like, you're now going to have to explain that to a future employer or future coach potentially. And that's going to be a little bit tougher to argue your situation. Again, having guests over doesn't sound like the craziest of things. Something like cheating in a game, something like that is going to be much, much harder to translate over professionally to esports and moving forward to another team. At the same point, it doesn't look good to be on a high-level organization like Cloud9 and then to have yourself get kicked off either. CDL. Okay, this is another, it's technically a rumor as of right now, but according to Dexterra, 100 Thieves have purchased the LA Call of Duty League spot formerly held by Optic Gaming. So this is a giant mess, if we're going to be completely honest before we dive into this. The ownership of Optic Gaming in general has been all over the place. Hector is most likely taking back control of the Optic Gaming brand, which I believe was previously bought by Immortals. So now there's like this whole Immortals owns this and Optic owns that, and this is the owner here and this is the owner there, and it's a giant mess. Because to my knowledge, Hector works for Immortals still, but he is now owning Optic Gaming, and with Immortals buying out Optic Gaming previous to that, they ended up with 2 CDL slots, and that's not allowed. So the way things are going to shake out, and I don't know if this is going to be official yet, but at least according to Dextero, the LA CDL spot will go to Hector and Optic Gaming. So that is going to be that Optic Gaming brand. And then eventually it looks like that will be resold to 100 Thieves. So 100 Thieves will come in as potentially the LA Thieves to take that LA Optic spot. Now, that also leaves the future of the Huntsmen up in the air. The Huntsmen being the other group that's kind of mixed into this somehow with energy and all that stuff going on. So now the Chicago Huntsmen, we do not know what's going to happen with that one as of yet. So if everything goes through, just to summarize, Hector takes on Optic Gaming. Immortals allows the release of the LA Optic spot. That Optic spot is sold to 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves comes in as LA Thieves. So it's a little bit of a chutes and ladders thing. It's a little complicated how we get to that final point, but if things do shake out in the end, it'll be 100 Thieves entering the Call of Duty League and Optic possibly exiting it, depending on what the Chicago Huntsman spot ends up shaking out to be.
Yeah, hot mess. But 100 Thieves after dropping out of CS:GO, now looking to get back, get into CDL here, with the hot mess that is Optic. If the rumor is true, it's good for, the
I know, right? It's the
yeah,
100 Thieves.
100 Thieves. It's okay. I like the move for 100 Thieves because they're going to get back into a shooter based game. I like that idea, but Joey, I think you said it best. This whole thing is an absolute mess when it comes to ownership and who's going where and what's going where. Hopefully, this is true to some point with 100 Thieves jumping back in here. I'll be kind of curious to see what happens with Chicago because that was a team that was very competitive. So it'll be interesting to see how that translates in the future if this is true.
Yeah, I think one of the other big points here that, again, it's still a rumor for now, but I think something that kind of backs it up a bit is if you remember a couple weeks ago, John and I talked about 100 Thieves dropping out of CSGO. This to me is kind of why that happened. They're allowed to save some budget from CSGO. Again, like Squirkle said a few weeks ago, they haven't really even been in the CSGO scene for a year between all their times in and out of the league. Now they're saying, hey, we're going to cut ties with CSGO. We're dropping our players. We're not staying in that scene. And instead, we now have all this coming to air, and it's potentially because of this investment. Again, this is going to cost a whole lot more than it would just for CSGO, but it is something that we've seen 100 Thieves in before in the Call of Duty scene. Now coming in as a franchise spot that they originally turned down, but potentially picking a new one up here for LA.
Okay, Joe, before we hop to the next subject, Blake brought something up in chat, and I have to ask you, have you seen Video Game High School before?
I have not.
Okay, so Blake, while I really love the reference you just brought up, I don't think Joey's going to understand. But essentially, he wants to know which one of us is Scott Slanders and the other one is Shotbot for the esport gaming show that they had on VGHS. So one was a human, one was obviously a robot. So Joey, I'm going to need you to watch VGHS. If that means you have to come over to my place and I will rewatch it because it is absolutely fantastic.
What is this even on? Is this Netflix?
It was actually a YouTube series and it came out weekly. And now it's actually available on Netflix, I believe. And it is absolutely fantastic. I think I've watched the entire series around 6 or 7 times. It is absolutely great and is what I hope society strives for in terms of video games. So I think that would be absolutely fantastic.
Wow, Video Game High School. Okay, guys, yeah. I will put that on my to-watch list, and we'll get back to you, Blake. We did have a lot of questions last week. That would have been a good one. We got some goofy ones last week, John. What was the one we got? Do you remember the first one we got?
Joey versus John, who wins?
Oh, yeah. It's like what are we versing in?
And what would he play in? I don't
come on, chat. Come on. Too much. Overwatch League free agency is now open. The cards are on the table. Players are getting traded left and right. We're honestly not going to touch on this too much just because there's so much that's still fluid right now. I would say a number of players have been signed, but the majority of contract negotiations are still going on. Our own Washington Justice, Decay is coming back. That one's official, and they also picked up a new player, arguably one of the best players from Contenders, and that is Mag. For those who want to check him out on Twitter, good luck finding that handle. It is obnoxiously long and complicated, so I would check out the Washington Justice page if you want to try to find him on Twitter. But overall, yes.
He changed his Twitter handle.
Unacceptable.
It happened. It actually happened. And
I feel like that was part of the contract.
Somebody took the old Twitter handle and turned it into a Mag fan account.
Nice.
And the Washington Justice was like, oh, there's an imposter here with the whole Among Us meme and everything. So, yeah, no, he actually changed. Nice. I think it's like Mag 12 or something like that now.
Okay, much better than UMGXWT124, whatever the heck it was before it was obnoxious. Some other big moves like Sparky, I believe, or Sparkle ended up going to the Dallas Fuel, a few other moves from Paris to Dallas, and a number of other moves throughout the league. But again, guys, because there's so much fluidity still happening with the moves, we're going to go ahead and wait till a few more compile, and then we will break all this down for you. Maybe we'll do a special show. Maybe they'll be on normal level up, but we will break those down as they keep moving. And then the same thing's going to be for LOL free agency. I know a ton of rumors that I really want to talk about with you guys that some will come true, some might not. But again, that doesn't open until November 16th. We can touch on it before that, but it'll probably be another week or so as things still kind of shake out a little bit as players get permission to do so. And then we'll touch on some of those moves as well. There is one we have to touch on now, though, John, and that is Bjergsen. The mid laner for TSM has decided to retire from competitive play as a player and will instead be moving into a head coaching role, staying with TSM, though. So he will now, instead of being that leader on the Rift and being that player that continued to show forth as a veteran for TSM for years upon years, he is now taking that step back and moving into a coaching role where, again, he'll still be represented on the Rift just through the players that he ends up coaching on the team. I'm excited for this next step. I think it is the end of a legacy in a sense for some NA. I was going to say success, but maybe that's not the word to go with. Some NA positivity that NA has shown here and there. TSM, again, not the greatest displays at Worlds, but Bjergsen being one of those players who has really lasted the test of time when it comes to success on the NA stage. So I'm excited to see what he can now do in a coaching role, given his ability to kind of pick and choose some of these players and how he can move some of that brilliance of his own game into them.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this translates. You know, if you watched his video, this was apparently a move that he was considering in between spring and summer split. And he decided to hold off and wait for the end of the year because he really wanted to have TSM bounce back and do something in summer split, which they did. They went to Worlds. I think that's a pretty good turnaround for TSM. I think it's a pretty good showing for him. We won't talk about their Worlds performance, but they were able to at least turn it around in their region. So that's good. So Bjergsen really going out on his own terms. I think it's really smart. I think that's the best way to do it. And then sticking with the same organization that really helped him develop into the megastar, if you will, that he is for TSM. Sticking there and becoming a head coach, making that transition. A lot of people ask, well, what's the next step for a lot of these gamers after they're done playing the game? Well, much like in traditional sports, the next logical step would be something in the front office, something in management, something in coaching. And that's what we're seeing here also with Bjergsen making that next step. And I, too, incredibly excited to see what he'll do as a coach. But we definitely have to take a look at his career. I mean, this guy was a staple in North America in the mid lane for so long. And it really is, the passing of the flag, if you will, to the next generation. It's that start of, the players who have been in the league for 6, 7, 8 years, reaching that age that are considered seniors in esports. And we're going to start seeing that turnover again. We're going to start seeing young up and coming talent develop into the next superstars. Who's going to be the next Bjergsen? Maybe Bjergsen will find the next Bjergsen and put him on TSM because now they're looking for a mid laner. But it's absolutely great. And as someone who has never really rooted for TSM, I've always had a lot of respect for Bjergsen as a player and as a person. So I congratulate Bjergsen if for whatever reason you're watching on a great career. It's been absolutely fantastic watching you over the years. And even though you're going to be going up against a team I support every single split, I wish you the best as long as it's not against Cloud9.
Yeah, and guys, he's been around for a very long time. Hails out of Denmark, if I remember correctly. So he comes in as an EU player. He originally took up that import slot, eventually gained residency in NA, and believe he's been with TSM the whole time. John, correct me if I'm wrong. You might know, you might not. I want to say he started with Copenhagen Wolves like 2012, 2013. So he has been around the scene for quite a while. Shortly after that, I don't believe he played on another team. I want to say he went from Copenhagen into TSM in the LCS. It could have been one other team in that shake. Yeah, go ahead.
Ninjas in Pajamas for one, I believe it was one split before going to TSM.
Okay. Was it around 2012, 2013 he jumped in?
It was 2012 with Copenhagen Wolves to 2013. Then in 13, he went to Ninjas in Pajamas. And at the end of 13, he went to Team Solo Mid and stayed with TSM until his retirement.
Yeah. And for the retirement part, like a lot of people are giving him some honorable mentions as far as he's coaching with TSM. It's great. He's staying with the same organization, which again, I think is great. And I think that's awesome. But there is a piece that people are forgetting, and that's the fact he is a part owner of TSM. So he's not really allowed to go to any other organization either. If he stays with the LCS, he has to stay with TSM. So there is that piece as well, but he's enjoyed his time over in NA. He's enjoyed his time with TSM, now as a part owner and now the coach as well. So he will be continuing on his legacy with them, just in a bit of a different role. Over to some other news this week. This one comes a little bit more in the gaming sector. Facebook and Oculus. We've talked about it before. If you now get an Oculus Rift, you do have to sign in using a Facebook account. But there's more, guys. There's a little bit more to this action. Not only do you have to create and sign in with that Facebook account for new users, according to IGN, if you delete or deactivate your Facebook account that is linked with that Oculus account, you now will lose access to your games, progress, and purchases as well. Wow. Thanks, Facebook. You're the best. So seriously, guys, this kind of sucks. So if I know a few of you use VR over here in chat today, definitely some of our listeners do as well on the podcast. When it comes down to it, if you're looking to move into VR, if you're not already there, this is definitely something to consider with all the different VR headsets out there. Again, there's one being made as well from like HP, Steam, and Microsoft that isn't released just yet. But the Oculus being one of those kind of noteworthy VR headsets currently available, but now being so heavily linked to Facebook, there are some takeaways here and there. Again, you would have to have a Facebook account. Not only have that Facebook account, but you cannot deactivate it or unlink them either, or you lose your games, you lose your progress, you lose those purchases. So it's Facebook diving even deeper into the gaming market, but really linking itself up with Oculus to a point that a lot of gamers are very uncomfortable with.
Yeah, I mean, not only is Facebook trying to sell your private information, but now they want to take away your happiness. They want to take away what makes you, the gamer, incredibly happy in your free time and whatever little free time we as people in society have anymore. They're trying to take it away by linking, a VR headset, which is decent, to a dying platform. It's kind of sad to see Facebook really just, go through these leaps and bounds to make people stay on their platform instead of, I don't know, changing their platform and making it better. Actually listening to the community to what they want and not just, snatching up competition and forcing people back onto their horrific platform. If it wasn't for the fact that that's like the only way I can communicate with some friends from high school and college, I would have deleted Facebook by now. I really could care less about Facebook. I hardly ever use it. Now, again, with Instagram now being owned by Facebook also, there's another catch-22 for you. So yeah, I don't like this move. I think it's dumb. I think Facebook is forcing people to use a dying platform.
Chat is bringing up the point that Sneaky, back to the Bjergsen topic just quickly, that Sneaky does have shares in Cloud9 and is being rumored to possibly play with Dignitas. So to my knowledge, if that deal does end up going through, he is going to be forced to sell his equity in C9. Again, not 100% sure on this, but that is one thing that I have heard being rumored, that move. But as well, if any of those players who initially had those sales in C9, I think they will be forced to sell. I think Zazel had some too, and I don't know if he was forced to when he moved to EG. I don't know if there's a certain percentage amount, like if they have to be a majority shareholder or a high enough minority shareholder to make that worth it. But definitely something that I can look further into as far as the LCS rulebook goes. But yeah, Facebook, Oculus, John, I hit on it. You hit on it. It sucks. I mean, I like Oculus. I think it's a great piece of hardware. I think it's awesome tech. I personally don't own one myself, but I'm just not a big fan of Facebook trying to link itself so deeply into things. Now, again, you can argue like, look, you have this with Google. You have this with Apple. A number of places have it with Microsoft as well as an option to sign in. But again, I think it's just the fact that everything is being linked to that Facebook account and we're linking it to a social media account. Like, yeah, you can argue Google's for social media, which it kind of closed down its big social media aspect, but you also have email, you have to-do lists, you have a number of other things there. Apple as well, a number of other things, not just social media based. Same with Microsoft. So all these other three are kind of used for something that's not just social media or not just an ad maker for you in a sense, in what Facebook is. So it's a little bit sketchy when it's saying, hey, we don't give an option for a standalone account moving forward. It's purely through Facebook, and deactivating that Facebook account deactivates your Oculus account as well. Sketchy stuff. Speaking of Microsoft, they have launched a new esports hub. It's similar to PopDog and Juked, in my opinion. It's going to use AI-applied machine vision models to analyze tens of thousands of streams in real time to identify the most interesting content, powerful sorting capabilities. This one's cool, John. So if you've ever used Juke or PopDog, I'm a big fan of both of them. It's a easy way to kind of get to like that hot esports content. On Twitch, it kind of gets like a little bit deep down there when you have Ninja on and Pokimane on and Tim the Tapman on. Where are the esports events? Where can I jump in and find that top Rocket League stream or whatever? And it can kind of get tattered up and mixed in with all the just chatting streamers out there as well. With something like Pop Dog, Juked, and now this MSN Esports, it's a lot easier to find those high-level competitions, to jump right into the parts that have good action to watch or great matchups to watch. One of the other things with this one, though, that I think stands apart from what Juked and Pop Dog offer is because of this machine AI type of stuff, it'll find out who is playing on what map and who is playing what role. So you can actually go onto this thing, and I posted the link in chat. It's still kind of, I feel like it's not quite fully released yet. It almost feels a little bit more beta-y to me. But one of the things you can do is just search for a role. So if John is playing support in League of Legends and he just wants to find out something, let's watch the top support streamers, but he doesn't know who they are. Now he can go to the League of Legends tab. He can go ahead and sort that by the support players and find the top support players who are playing currently and streaming League of Legends between Twitch and YouTube. So that's really cool. I think that's an awesome feature. Another thing is like Counter-Strike, for example. Maybe you really want to learn how a team plays Cobblestone. Well, you can go ahead and jump into Counter-Strike and sort by Cobblestone. And because of the machine AI that Bing uses or whatever, I think it's Bing related, it will find ways to sort and just find every game and every streamer that is currently on Cobblestone and being played right then. So it's kind of cool. It gives a much deeper ability to sort than what we see on Juked and Pop Dog. Like both of them give, if you want to watch Rocket League or CSGO or whatever, sure, it's going to show you the top streams over there. But if you want to jump into actual roles or positions or players or where they're based out of, what their ping is, this Microsoft one does give all those capabilities. So it's a very deep search engine. Again, to me, it feels like a beta. The site looks clean, but I feel like it's lacking some features as well outside of the search stuff. So I hope it does get updated later down the line. And John does have it up there for the live viewers if you guys want to check that out, but pretty cool stuff over there. Definitely a interesting site to look at. And again, chat, I did post it in there for those of you listening to the show. I actually don't know a direct link for it, but www.msn.com. I think you can just find an esports tab on that main site, and that will eventually take you over to that if you guys want to check it out. Again, I don't know why, if you're Microsoft, why you wouldn't buy like msnesports.com or something like that. I don't know if that's taken. I don't know what's going on, but they need a direct link, that's for sure. Anything else you want to say on that one, sir? I kind of covered a lot there.
I trusted you. You paid
off.
off.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you. I don't quite trust Microsoft when it comes to esports just yet, but I'm hoping they prove us differently with this service. Okay, so moving into next generation consoles, guys, there are a lot of games. I think there's like a few hundred games that are getting big updates. Microsoft mentioned 30 to 50 different games that are getting very hefty updates. Sony announced that they're going to bring about 100 games over. About 10 of them are getting very big. I think they call them boost mode updates. So you're looking at around 50 to 60 different games that are getting these high-level updates and a few hundred others that will be compatible with some kind of updates going on. It might be something simple like a little graphic bump or a slight frames per second bump. These other ones getting some hefty stuff. The biggest one of all of them is going to be Gears of War for Xbox. This just, not to jump too big into Gears of War, because I know there's not a ton of players out there and a ton that listen that are big Gears of War players, but it is just kind of showing the capabilities of what can be done from these older games moving to new gens. With Gears of War in particular, they are doing this campaign New Game Plus type of thing. They're going to add 2 new difficulty modes in Iron Man and Inconceivable. John, I really like Iron Man. So with this Iron Man mode, it's going to be, you can play it with whatever difficulty you want, but then you have to do it with no dying. So it's making through the whole game without dying pretty much. And there's like other modifiers and mutators that end up getting put into place. It sounds very unique, very different. I'm sure there's other games out there that do it, but I do like the idea of that being thrown into Gears of War as well. You're going to have some character and weapon skins now available in campaign. So while most game campaigns, you just play as whatever is given to you, your base skins type of thing, Gears of War is now updating to allow all those fancy weapon skins. If John wants to play with a bright pink Lancer, he's welcome to. If he wants to play with a bright blue skin, he is more than welcome to do that as well. Marcus will be added in. The famous Gears of War lead character is now going to be playable in campaign as well. Jack upgrades, the little robot guy that travels around, will be replayable because he's going to be able to carry those upgrades over, so on and so forth. Again, mutators, they're going to do like a big head mode, kind of. They remind me a little bit of like the skulls in Halo, like the fun stuff that gets put around that. Maybe we'll have confetti coming out of heads. Who knows? Those have not been announced yet. Additionally, they're going to be adding a new DLC campaign component too, Hive Busters. I think this is supposed to run like 3 to 5 hours. It'll be an additional campaign exploring not the main characters of Gears 5, but rather some spin-off characters that they ended up making an escape mode with. So that is all coming. lots and lots of content. Again, not everything. They're doing an Operation 5 thing too. So we're looking at probably a few hundred different changes coming here when this drops November 10th, right around that time. One other thing though, and this is big, I think this is the biggest takeaway of all, there's going to be visual upgrades, and then there's going to be frame per second upgrades. So when we look at the Xbox Series X, a lot of what they're targeting is these frames per second, heading toward 120 frames per second for multiplayer. Some of the single player of last gen was around 30 frames per second. Some of the multiplayer hit 60 at the end of the generation. Now they're looking at 60 as a minimum for the Xbox console, with 120 as kind of their maximum, which is big for consoles. For PC, it means just about nothing to any of us. But for console players, that is a big jump up. So that will be coming to single player and multiplayer. And again, so far we know Gears of War, but I'm sure John and I at least are hoping that that does come to a lot more games. It does make console players a little bit more viable in cross-play situations against PC. Okay, enough of that. So lots of big things coming to Gears of War. Lots of big things coming to a lot of these boost mode games, in a sense, for Xbox and PlayStation. We will hit on those closer to launch. Sticking with Xbox and PlayStation, because there is a little bit more news. This one not as game related. Xbox chief Phil Spencer has been talking, and here's a bit of the roundup. Phil has hinted at other Xbox options down the line, mentioning, I think you're going to see, this is quoted, I think you're going to see lower priced hardware as part of our ecosystem when you think about streaming sticks and other things that people might want to just go and plug into their TV to play via xCloud. So John and I kind of dove a little bit into this, and we've talked about this before on the show. This is a way of saying, hey, like those Chromecast sticks, that could be an xCloud stick moving forward. You know, those Roku devices and Apple TV boxes, those very well could be xCloud devices moving forward as well. Heck, you have a smart TV, xCloud might even be an app moving forward in the future. Again, we've already seen some of this come out with Google Stadia. We've seen some of it with Amazon Luna. I think this is another big step forward for cloud gaming in general, though, John, with xCloud possibly doing the same type of thing.
Yeah, it would be absolutely massive for xCloud going in this direction. I mean, you make it more accessible. And Joey, you know, what a better way than to have a HDMI stick or a USB stick that is essentially an xCloud console, if you will, and you travel, and now you're in a hotel, and you're like, okay, I really don't want to go out and do anything. Let's say that, you know, for whatever reason, the pandemic's still going on. I don't want to leave my hotel room. Guess what? Now you can just plug your xCloud stick into the hotel TV, and boom, now you have up and running. Pending the hotel has the proper internet connections needed. You can play on the xCloud. I like it. I think it's going to be smart. I think at least at the bare minimum, having an app you can download onto your Roku or onto a Google Chrome stick or onto your smart TV is definitely a solid way to do it. Like, we're already seeing some games available on these streaming service platforms. So why not make it more accessible? That's the best way you're going to be able to reach more people. And for Xbox, the ultimate goal, make more money. That's the best way to help bring more money and more people into your ecosystem.
Absolutely. And I think this won't be the last one. I wouldn't be surprised if Sony eventually does something like this as well. NVIDIA GeForce, this is another option for them to look into as well. So as cloud gaming continues to grow, as more people adopt into it, as it becomes a bigger and bigger thing, there's going to be more accessibility that's just not a console, not necessarily just a phone, not necessarily a PC only. You're going to get some of these streaming players, you're going to get some of these smart TV apps. Definitely potential in this area for it to grow on top of becoming a bigger market and finding ways to reach out to more people. Another one of those for xCloud is going to be iOS. Same with Google Play. So far, they've not been able to get their cloud-based apps onto iOS, but Amazon, thankfully, decided to give a pathway to everyone, saying, we are doing a web-based app. Once you click on this app, it's going to take you into a web browser. It's going to bypass all of Apple's rules, and it is allowed because Apple has approved it. So now Microsoft and Google are going to look at that direction as well. That should be coming probably early 2021 for both platforms. Last but not least, and not too much on this, in the same interview with Strategery, Spencer also teased the potential for an Xbox Game Pass Platinum with guaranteed access to new Xbox hardware. Again, guys, no idea what this means. It just means that it has been teased. I don't know if this means something like, hey, if I buy into Game Pass moving into the next generation of consoles, this is going to get me that next console. I really have no idea what this means yet, but it potentially is an option for the future, so we will cover that as more details become available. Sony. So Sony hasn't been silent either. We moved from people testing their console in a white room but not allowed to touch the console. We've moved from IGN making fun of them by touching an Xbox Series X. Sony has been making some interesting moves here and there, but very limited as to who can get their hands on the console as of yet. Though we are glad to report PS5s are now being distributed to a number of media outlets outside of the Sony camp, plus Travis Scott. Again, not quite sure why Travis Scott was the first person to actually touch a console outside of Sony, but hey, he's touched it. He's got a new commercial now as well about it, where the fan looks nice and strong on that PS5. But overall, they have started to distribute this out. Again, it's not to Digital Foundry yet, which is the one I kind of look at the most when it comes to testing these consoles. But again, I don't know what their distribution looks like as far as EU and different media outlets as of yet. But we do know it is in the hands of people. They're not allowed to open the box yet. They're allowed to open the outside box, but not the actual PlayStation box. There is an embargo on that. I'm guessing, if I had to take a guess, it would probably be lifted this week. They can probably take it out. They can probably start making content. It might be limited on what they can make content about. But moving closer to that launch, again, we're about 2 weeks away at this point. We should start seeing a lot of videos pop up from media regarding PS5. John, do you have your PS5 box over there?
Sony has asked me not to publicly state that I have it yet, so the answer is going to have to be no until then.
Okay, so John has not opened his PS5 box. I do not have a PS5 box. We're going to wait to see how this all shakes out. But again, guys, I hope we'll get some stuff for media this week where they can actually get their hands on that device, show us how easy it is to take those faceplates off, show us what the UI actually looks like when it's running at a home place outside of an actual Sony center. So we should have more details on that either this week or next as we get closer to that launch. Okay. As we know with console launches, exclusivity is a huge thing. You get a lot of different games out there that are fully exclusive that are made by first party. For PlayStation, that's your God of War, your Horizon Zero Dawn, your Spider-Man. When you look at Xbox, there's a lot of titles like Halo, Gears of War, a bunch of titles for both sides when it comes to exclusive agreements. Then you have the limited time exclusive agreements. Games that like Final Fantasy 13 that Sony has bought out rights for a year. They're going to only have that game on PlayStation for a year. Xbox has done the same thing with a few games. Then you have the third layer, and that's going to be in-game exclusivity. So when you look at the Marvel Avengers game that came out, or Marvel War Table or whatever it was called, that came out in September, there was an exclusive character in there that was only for Sony and forever only will be with Sony. And that was Spider-Man because they own the property for him in video games and movies. So Sony said, hey, this will be added in the game, but it's going to be exclusive for us, and they paid a hefty price for that. So now that we're moving forward, we're starting to get some more of these exclusivity deals coming out. To my knowledge, Xbox has not made any that are in-game exclusive as of yet. They did last generation, and they very well could this generation. But as of now, the biggest one is going to be here with PlayStation. They have made a year-long contract with Call of Duty publisher Activision for Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. It's not the whole game. It's not the full multiplayer. It's not early map releases. This time around, it's a little bit simpler. It's going to be locking down a new 2-player co-op mode called Zombie Onslaught. So we're looking at something that's 2-player, something zombie-based. Again, this will not be the major zombie mode, but it's kind of going to be a 2-player Spec Ops type of zombie mode. It's going to take place on basic multiplayer maps. So just your normal maps you'd find in multiplayer. And again, we don't know too much about the mode as of yet. If I had to take a guess from the way it sounds, John, it sounds like a 2-player version of Gears of War Horde to me. Something that's going to have endless waves or maybe 50 waves or whatever of zombies coming on. 2 players are going to fight them off on these multiplayer maps. This exclusivity deal is going to last until November 1st, 2021. Okay, I know you're shifting your eyes over there. Okay, I am not a fan of this at all. And again, you can argue I'm even wearing an Xbox hoodie. You can argue I'm a little bit more of an Xbox bias over here. I was not a fan when Xbox did this previous to the Xbox One generation either. When it comes to exclusivity, I'm perfectly fine if a game is going to stay on console forever. If it's a first-party game, I don't think they need to publish to other platforms. If it's a third-party game, I am fine with limited exclusivity. If PlayStation wants to buy whatever game for a year, howbeit. If they want to spend the money, I say go for it. My issue is when it comes down to limited exclusivity in games. If there is a character in a game that if that game is published on PC and Xbox and PlayStation, and one of them comes out and says, hey, this character is exclusive to this platform, or this level is exclusive to this platform, or this mode, like in this case, is exclusive to this platform, I am not a fan. Even if it's limited, I'm just not a fan of a complete game being sold at the same price on every platform and then not allowing that full mode to be accessible to all platform users. Again, it's only a year. And again, it's a much smaller game mode than what we've seen in the past with multiplayer maps. But I'm still not a big fan of exclusivity of in-game content at all.
Joey, your Xbox tears taste so good.
I knew that was coming.
Oh my goodness, Joey.
Well, it's not just Xbox, actually. PC gamers get screwed on this one too.
The salt after all the positive and fluffy news that we've heard from Xbox saying, "Oh, we're gonna lead the way. We're gonna be the solid. We're gonna be positive in the next gaming generation," and blah 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 blah. The amount of salt over a small game mode. Yes, I get it. If you are if you are solely looking for this game mode in the new Call of Duty, then yeah, it's gonna suck. But like, out of everything that can be exclusive, for me, like this is so minuscule. Like, be upset that Spider-Man's not going to be in the Avengers game. That I would be upset about, because one, I'm a Spider-Man fan. And two, if I had an Xbox, I'd be ticked off. Or if I wanted to play it on PC, I'd be ticked off also. But this, I mean, the fact that you have to wait a year, yeah, that sucks. But at least you get it in 12 months versus you only get it if you drop $500 on a different console. Yeah, I get it. I don't like it either. But I feel like this is one of the things that, yeah, it's not good for gamers overall. It's not good. And if this is successful for whatever reason, if Sony deems it successful, I expect to see a lot more of it, which I wouldn't want. But I feel like this is so minuscule in terms of the grander picture of what's going on in gaming right now. And I get it. Like, if I was an Xbox fanboy, if I was an Xbox shill on the Level Up Live podcast show also, I would be upset. No shots at anyone on that one for that. But no, I get it. I get where you're coming from. I just feel like, yeah, it sucks, but at least eventually you do get it. But yeah, I mean, I'm indifferent, I guess. We'll say that I'm indifferent.
Yeah, I just want to throw out a few points just to clear things up. So when it comes to Call of Duty, I typically don't buy the Treyarch game either. So this is not going to be a mode that's going to make or break me buying the game. I probably would not have bought it anyway. At the same point, like John said, I think if you're going to take anything away, this is probably the most minimal part of it. Previously, Sony and Xbox have both done this, where they locked away certain multiplayer content for a month or so. Sony gets these maps a month early, and then Xbox only gets these guns for a month or whatever. And I'm not a big fan of that either. Again, a month is less than a year, but the fact that multiplayer maps are locked away, I think, is a bigger deal than the rest of this. When it comes to horde mode or zombie mode or whatever we're calling this, again, it's not the full zombie mode. It's kind of like a break off of it, a little bit of a spin-off version, kind of like Spec Ops was in, I don't know what that was, Advanced War or whatever the other Call of Duty was with Spec Ops in it. So again, not the biggest mode, not a full huge deal. It's only a year long. I believe Sony did pay an arm and a leg for this deal. I think it was close to $1 million. Do I think Sony probably spent this money poorly? Yes. That's not my money to spend, but Sony has done it, and they think that's going to be worth it if that ends up being the $1 million purchase they ended up making. So they are getting exclusivity on this. It's going to last a year. Do I think it's going to make or break anything? No, just like John, I don't think it's the end of the world. At the same point, not a fan of exclusive content in game when it comes to a game that's releasing on multiple platforms at launch. Not really a big fan of that. I hope we don't see too much of it moving forward. Again, Microsoft has not done any of it so far moving into this next gen, but they did do it last gen. And again, Sony has been limited in what they've done. They've only done Call of Duty and then Avengers as well in September. So hopefully not too much of that. I think there might be one more that's coming potentially. I personally think it's GTA related, but again, I'm not 100% sure on that. So we'll see how things shake out. But at least for now, we're not getting too much of this. Just not a fan of when it does happen. That brings us to our eSport League results, John. We're probably going to end the show here shortly, and we're going to tease some fun stuff happening on Thursday's episode. But let's talk League of Legends Worlds before we wrap up today. And that is going to be our semifinal matchups that happened this past week, and then a little preview of our final to come. In our semifinals, I'm trying to pull them up right now. Our first one was Damwon up against G2. That did end in favor of Damwon, the team from LCK, the number one seed over there in South Korea. G2 fell to them in a 3-1. Damwon does move on in that matchup. And then in our other matchup, we have Suning continuing their miracle run, their David versus Goliath run, as they take down the number one seed from China, being the number 3 seed. moving on 3-1 in that one to face Damwon from South Korea. It's been a few years since we've had this matchup. Really, the last 2 years have been that LEC team from Europe challenging the Chinese teams over there. The Chinese teams wiping the floor with them in 3-0 appearances both times. Now South Korea is back finally. It's not even Faker in the finals, but they are back to defend their previous titles of years past. Can China hold another title, or will South Korea finally reign supreme once again? And that sets us up for Damwon up against Suning. For the semifinal matchups, is there anything you want to touch on, John, with Damwon G2 or Suning Top Esports before we talk finals?
Yes, Joey. I want to point out for the fact that North America, guys, NA fans, it wasn't us this time. It wasn't. Joey, there was a record set in the Damwon Gaming versus G2 Esports semifinals. And I hate to see this happen to a region with so much prestige as EU, as the LEC. But Joey, G2 set the record for the fastest loss in Worlds. 19 minutes and I believe 3 seconds, correct?
1903, correct.
19 minutes and 3 seconds. Damwon completely dismantled G2 and gave them a big fat L. It wasn't Cloud9, it wasn't TSM, it wasn't Team Liquid, it wasn't FlyQuest, it wasn't anybody from the LCS. NA fans, let's celebrate NA better than EU because we don't have that horrible record on our region's mark. We're going to leave it there, Joey. I want you to bring up the fact that we didn't make it out of groups. I want you to bring up the fact that, we just suck in general when it comes to Worlds outside of Cloud9. I don't want you to bring any of the history up. I'm talking right now. I'm living in the present. And G2 did a great job.
Yeah, the West really setting records at this Worlds without becoming the champions. TSM going 0-6 and not making it out of the group stage for the first time ever. G2, like John said in the semifinals, getting beaten in under 20 minutes, 1903 to be exact. And that's not all, John. EU broke another record last week with Fnatic. They were the first team to ever be reverse swept when it comes to quarterfinals. After being up 2-0 against the tournament favorites, they ended up losing 3-2. So yeah, go West. Woo! EU with those two beautiful records, and NA as well with that nice group stage record. So the West really making a name for themselves here at Worlds. Whether they win or not, they still find their way into the record book one way or another. Overall, the Damwon G2 series, John, it went exactly as I predicted. I believe you predicted it as well. I want to say you said 3-2. I said 3-1. Damwon did come out of this one 3-1 over G2. Again, G2, very talented, but Damwon just feels like they're on a whole nother level right now. Extremely talented, both bot lane, top lane, jungle, and mid lane. They seem like they have carries in every role. They seem like a very well-meshed team as well when it comes to communication and team fights. They showed they were the better team that day, and they clearly made it past G2 here. Over to the Suning Top Esports matchup. Again, that was 3-1 in favor of Suning. Suning played really well. They just continue to show why they are a team that can make upsets. This one is a little bit of a credit to NA out there for TL fans. TL technically has the winningest record against Suning as far as teams at Worlds currently, as they did end up, I believe, as a 50% win record against them. So TL looking pretty good at the moment when it comes to that stat against a potential world champion here. Suning does take down their number 1 seed from China in Top Esports. Top, to me, John, has not looked that great this tournament. Again, I think they showed some very high highlights when it came to the group stage. I think they showed some nice matchups against Fnatic as well in the quarterfinals, but they haven't really looked like the highest level of potential that people talked them up to be.
Yeah, a lot of people going into Worlds circled Top Esports as a team to watch, a team that could make that run to the finals and possibly, pending on the matchup, could go all the way. And Fnatic took them to 5 games. Granted, Fnatic took the first 2 and forced that reverse sweep, but still it took 5 games. And then you go up against Suning, which I believe finished 11th in the spring in the LCK. It was either spring or summer. They finished
LPL.
Pardon me, LPL. So they're, Suning was a team that a lot of people are like, yeah, they're good, but how good are they really going to be? And Suning's really proved a lot of people wrong here, taking down Top 3-1. They're playing very, 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 very well for a team that a lot of people kind of overlooked outside of the play and group stages of this World. So it's good to see Suning pull off that upset, whether we want to call it an upset or not. Top Esports definitely Like I was saying, a team a lot of people were looking at and had that in their conversation for a team that could potentially go all the way. Suning, not so much. Suning really being the underdog story here, taking down Goliath along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a lot of credit to a lot of players on Suning, but in particular, the jungle has been absolutely insane. I can't think of his name. Is it SOTM or something like that? I'll have to pull up the Suning roster to make sure I'm saying that right. But yeah, he's been absolutely phenomenal. He has really come through, especially in this jungle carry meta, and really shown what his potential can be on this roster. When you have carry junglers, Selfmade showed it as well with Fnatic. We've seen not, and honestly, the opposite with Yankos. Yankos being one of those very supportive style junglers has suffered a bit for G2 here in this carry jungle meta. So a lot of different teams shifted up. Again, Fnatic seeing more potential, Suning seeing more potential. Teams like Top and G2 losing a little bit of that potential due to the jungler not being as much carry oriented. So a lot of big changes going on there. The other thing is the bot lane. Huang Fang has been absolutely insane for Suning. You did see the Jin highlights. Most of you who watch quarterfinals, he popped off in that, and then just coming through here against Top Esports, showing up against Jackie Love, who is arguably one of the best AD carries in all of the world. Jackie looked pretty good here and there, but when it came down to JKL showing up and making the appearance he needed to, Huan Feng ended up being the better AD carry in the end. So big stuff there for Suning, and they will move on to face the LCK champion of Damwon, which brings us to our finals. John, who is your prediction for the finals? Damwon Gaming, Suning Esports, big stuff going on. The LPL versus LCK. The rivalry that we've always wanted in esports. The rivalry now making its way back here in League of Legends. Who will win out in this one, and what is your series record for these two teams?
Why not wait till Thursday's show to do this?
I mean, we can, but we don't know if we'll be able to touch on it because we have a lot going on Thursday's show.
TBD. Oh, that is right. We do. That's right. No, I completely
yeah.
Set the damn
so
thing
I don't know if we'll get to
it.
So we need to make at least a brief one here.
So I want to pick Suning. I really do. I am very impressed with their play style, what they've been able to achieve in this tournament, taking down JD Gaming, taking down Top Esports, just really running the table and being a force in Worlds. And really, if you're looking for an underdog, there is no better story right now than Suning. Going up against Damwon Gaming, this Goliath of a team, that has so much potential. When you take a look at it, what was a harder matchup, Suning versus Top Esports or Damwon Gaming versus G2? I probably have to lean in favor of Suning's matchup. That was definitely a harder matchup in my opinion. And, they were both 3-1s. Suning able to play incredibly well with the points that Joey put out there, especially, with the difference in the jungle there. But Damwon, I mean, that team is scary good. I mean, they are a force. They have done everything right. They took down DRX in the quarterfinals, straight swept them. They had almost no problems in the group stage. Damwon Gaming is the definition of LCK power at the moment. So it's tough. Damwon, the Goliath versus Suning, who's been the giant killer. Man, it's tough. I feel like I have to go Damwon. I don't think it's going to be a sweep. I want to give Suning a chance here. I want to say it goes 5 games. I hope it goes 5 games, as I have a feeling this matchup could be very, very, very entertaining. I'm going to say Damwon Gaming in 5.
Yeah, I hope it goes 5 games, and I think Suning definitely has the potential to take it 5 games. I'm going to stick with my original projection at the beginning of Worlds, though. I picked Damwon to win the whole thing 3-1, regardless of who they go up against. I am going to stick with that here. I think Damwon is just that strong of a team. I think Suning has enough to pull 1 game. I honestly think the potential is there to pull 2 games, but when it comes down to it, Damwon, they are strong in the top lane with Naguri. They look really good in the jungle. Canyon can play those junglers that are supportive and aggressive. When you look at the mid lane, Showmaker is an absolute monster. Ghost and his partner of support down in the bot lane. They are just so strong no matter where you look on the map. I would argue their bot lane is probably their biggest weakness, and if Suning can take advantage, it's probably going to be in the bot lane through some jungle pressure. But it's just not going to be enough, in my opinion. I think Damwon is the better of these two teams. I think Damwon will be crowned champion. I'm going to go 3-1 here. Again, we could change things Thursday, depending how long that show goes. But for now, John and I are both taking Damwon. John taking them 3-2 over Suning. I will take them 3-1. With that being said, John, I think we're safe to wrap up today's show, but let's go ahead and tease a little bit of what's happening on Thursday. Guys, you have spoken and we are going to deliver. We're trying to bring more and more guests onto the show. So this upcoming Thursday, I'll let John announce it, but we will be bringing a guest on to discuss various topics. And that guest is a nice one here, a big supporter of the show and OTN in general. John, who is our guest for this Thursday show?
So we wanted to reach out and grab someone that has some kind of knowledge with current events going on, especially with the horrific tweet that was sent out by a creative director at Google Stadia. So we're going to bring on Josh Hafkin from the Game Gym, who has experience with a game developer prior to him opening up the Game Gym. But one of the main reasons we want Josh to come on and we extended that invitation is because part of the mission of the Game Gym is to grow that next generation of content creator and game streamer. So if this idea of broadcast licensing is something that is actually being talked about by game developers, how is that going to impact that next generation? What is that going to do to content creators and streamers currently, in today's atmosphere? And then going back, like if you're already an established streamer, obviously a broadcast license isn't going to mean anything to you. But let's say you're pulling in 50, 60, maybe 100 viewers. You're not pulling in all that money that like Ninja or a Shroud or a Dr. Disrespect or whatever is pulling in, then, that is something that you definitely have to take into account. So we're happy to have Josh come on the show on Thursday. We're going to talk about that, dive a little bit deeper into that and kind of see where someone who has been in both camps, if you will, what his opinion is on that. We'll have that nice, awesome discussion. And please tune in on chat, ask questions in chat. We'll work those questions in as well. And we'll have a really awesome conversation and just kind of find out what in the world this creative director from Google Stadia is really talking about.
Absolutely. And I think one of the other big points that we're going to hit on is, so Josh also owns the Game Gym here in Maryland. And it's one of those situations that it's kind of like an academy system, but it also plays into some of those roles that we see with gaming cafes. We have a bunch of gaming cafes local to the area as well. So kind of how COVID has affected him, what different changes he's made as far as online tournaments go, how that's affecting the students or the academy players as well. So a number of different discussion topics. And again, we'll tweet it out. We'll put it out on social media. We'll get it out there to bring a decent sized live audience in here to get some good questions going for him too. We're super excited to have him on. Great friend of the show. And I'm excited to see what you guys can learn from him and his experiences. With that, John, I think it is safe to wrap up today's episode.
It helps if I unmute the audio channel, Well, Nation, that will do it for this edition of Level Up Live. But before you go, head on over to patreon.com/OTN and consider becoming a part of the Overtime Network. In return, you will get access to exclusive content that nobody else in the world can get unless they are a part of OTN Media. If you have not done so already, make sure you follow the show here on Twitch to catch the next episode of Level Up Live. You're not going to want to miss that interview with Josh coming up from the Game Gym. If you do listen to the show on our podcast feed, please do leave us a review. Level Up Podcast is available on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, and Google Play. We would love to hear from you. In fact, we love to hear from our community so much, Joey. There are so many different ways our community can reach out to us. Joey, what are some of those ways?
John, Level Up Nation, you guys can head on over to Twitter and find us at Level Up Live. That is LvL Live on Twitter. In addition to that, you can follow OTN Media, the umbrella company, on Twitter and Facebook as well, and that is at OTN Media. Instagram too, we're over there, OTN_media on that one, however. And last but not least, we are available on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/OTN Media. You can find us here. Many streams throughout the week. Level Up in general will be Mondays and Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Come join the live crowd.
All right, Level Up Nation, make sure you tune in this Thursday, October 29th, as we cover the latest and greatest in gaming and esports news. Do your ears and eyes a favor. Slap that follow and or sub button to know when the next episode of Level Up Live is ready for your viewing pleasures. We will catch you all on Thursday. Have a great week. Remember, be nice to your fellow gamers online, and as always,
level up.
You don't know the things I do to make you feel right, make you feel alright. And everything you wanna know, I'm telling you, I'm telling you. Spreading for so long, spreading for so long. Do you feel right? Do you feel right? This is all I wanna know. Are you telling me?